What's going on, everyone? Designedcoma here. Welcome back. And the gameplay you're watching is me playing some Domination in Black Ops 3. So, what do we got for today's video? Well, we're going to continue our Christmas special with the 70s. We're going to get into the 70s, and as I mentioned in a previous video, I have been watching this program on the History Channel called Christmas Through the Decades. And this is some of the stuff that kind of, I found interesting for the 70s, for the decade of the 70s, and to be honest with you, some of it is pretty funny, especially the last thing I'm going to talk about. But let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Star Wars. Okay, Star Wars released in '77, and I have to tell you that this was one of the coolest things that happened when I was a kid. I mean, when Star Wars came out, it was an amazing movie. I really couldn't talk about it enough. I would have to dedicate an entire video to it. But some of the interesting facts about Star Wars when it came out was, well, actually when it was being produced, was George Lucas went to the studio and he garnered a deal with the studio in terms of he wanted all of the merchandise rights. So all the rights to the merchandise that would be made after the film. Okay, and the reason he did this was because he knew this movie was going to be something big. He knew it was going to be huge. But he did this deal in terms of him getting the merchandise rights for a lower production fee, so they would have to pay him less money. But he knew that all the money was going to be in the merchandise, and he was right. It was so big, it was so huge, that when the toy company Kenner, wasn't prepared for the demand, for how high the demand was going to be for this, and they ended up putting like empty boxes. I don't even think they were a box, to be honest with you. It was like a flat sleeve of a picture of the toy that you wanted, and inside of that was like a redemption slip. So after you made your purchase, you would bring that to the store when they had the product, and you would redeem it for your toy. And it was crazy. It was just huge. So imagine getting up Christmas morning and unwrapping your empty Star Wars toy box, and having to go and get it later on. But he knew it was going to be huge. So yeah, you can imagine that the studio was a little bit probably kicking themselves in the butt for this, because of the fact that they went ahead with it and gave him all the rights to the merchandise, and that is where he made his money. To this day, the toys are still popular. To this day, some are super collectible. I used to have some, but I destroyed my toys when I was growing up. I didn't really see the value of them later on in life. So yeah, I destroyed my toys. Another toy I used to have was Evel Knievel. Okay, Evel Knievel was pretty popular back then for all of his stunts and daredevil things, that kind of stuff. And I had the stunt bike with the launcher, and I'll tell you what, the biggest thing was, it wasn't so much the bike that got broken, it was the launchers that got busted, because I mean, you would just crank on that thing like crazy to get those wheels spinning as fast as you could, to launch Evel Knievel as fast as you could, to get him to do his jumps. The wheelies were kind of hard to pull off. I couldn't really do that very well. But man, I played with that toy until I broke that thing, and to this day, it's still a really cool toy, but you won't find it on the shelves anymore. Some nostalgic toys are coming back, but you won't find Evel Knievel out there. To find one all intact is just about darn near impossible. And if you do, I'm telling you right now, that thing is worth some cash, because those launchers were the thing that got busted, not so much the bike. Some other things that were cool was electronic games, handheld games. Now, the game that I had was Mattel's football electronic handheld game. Now, that football game, I wore that thing out until it died. It literally died on me. and it was, for its time, just the coolest thing that you could ever own. And I got that thing for one Christmas, and I was just ecstatic for this thing. I played that so much, and all it was just a bunch of little red lights that looked like a minus sign, and you would just play football. You'd run up and down the field, try to score, and you'd make field goals and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, it was a blast. And if you had one of those things, you were the cool kid. You know, another handheld toy I had, or handheld electronic game, was Merlin. You know, you could play games on this thing like tic-tac-toe, and blackjack and some other ones. But I didn't really play with Merlin all that much. You know, play with the toy Merlin all that much. And that thing, you know, that game released in '78. You know, so it was cool, but again, it wasn't as cool as the football game. I played the football one more than anything. Some food staples, okay? America helped start a Christmas tradition in Japan thanks to KFC and their Christmas meal marketing campaign in '74. Now, this got to be so popular that Japanese customers would put orders in 2 months ahead of time to otherwise, if they didn't, they'd have to stand in these really long lines for hours to get their finger-licking good original or crispy recipe Christmas dinner. So that was something that I found to be really interesting and funny. Another really funny thing is, okay, now this is funny to and almost beyond, and it kind of borderlines stupid. All right, but back in '75. And I remember this, the Pet Rock, okay? If nobody knows what the Pet Rock is, you know, you can Google it and see what the Pet Rock was. But in '75, this guy was at a bar with a couple of his buddies, and they were talking about their pets that they've owned, and some pets that they still have. And he was just goofing around, and he's like, "I have a Pet Rock." So it was really meant to be a joke, all in the beginning, but then I guess he had an epiphany and realized, hey, you know, I wonder if I could sell a Pet Rock. Now, in '75, times were tough for a lot of people. You know, you know, money was tight, and the Pet Rock was appealing to everybody. It was only $4, and people were buying them up like by the half dozen. So this guy decides, okay, I'm going to market this Pet Rock. He paid like a penny for every rock. And it came in a box, you know, it said, you know, the Pet Rock on it. And it came with instructions to teach your Pet Rock how to do tricks. Okay, and some of the tricks were, you know, to sit and stay, things like that. So, you know, it was quite hilarious, quite funny. It's still hilarious to this day. But people were actually going out and buying these things by the half dozen, you know, like 6 at a time. And they sold for $4. The guy made $1 million like 3 weeks before Christmas of that year. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, favorite, and subscribe. And I'll have a link in the description to the History channel if you want to check this out and see if you can find it, you know, in your cable providers on demand. It's funny. It's good fun. I hope you guys check it out, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.